Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Friday Live. It is wonderful to be here with you all again this week. So make sure that if you're here, pop in and say hello to me because I do love to say hello. So let me know where you're from if you haven't been before. If you're here again and you come every week, say hello because it's wonderful to see who is here. So, of course, what we're going to be looking at today, over the last few weeks, we've been creating through coloured backgrounds, creating some texture. And then last week I did some paint and play with Powertex Art Supplies, and it was a lot of fun. It was so much fun that I decided to do another week of it and show you a few more possibilities of what you can do. And of course, there is just so much more that you can do when you paint and play in your own studio and you experiment with the way that you put things together. So don't be afraid to try things out, so long as you're using the different mediums in the way that they're meant to be used and layering in such a way that you're not like trying to put some products over things that they shouldn't be going over. So, but always experiment, always play, and have a great time, because that's the name of the game, is to get into it. So this weekend, I hope that through doing what I do with you today, you'll be inspired to have a play this weekend on your own artwork. So we'll go down to the art table and we'll take a look at this one. So this was actually the one that I put up for this week's view, and so you can see that there's a lot of different layers in this. So it's not just been done in one layer, it's actually been layered up over a series of different processes. So it's actually got Bista on here. It's got I've added crackle, which I will actually show you today. And then it's been sponged back into, it's had liquid powers put onto it. So I've actually used the blue liquid power, which is just absolutely gorgeous. And then worked back into that with the brushing and everything. So a bit exciting. And so we'll get started and we'll have a bit of a play now with having some crackle. So we'll take a look at this large canvas. Oops, I don't want to stab my artwork. So I've got this other canvas here. I absolutely love this one, and it's got white on white easy 3D flex. So it's got really some gorgeous textural elements happening in this one, and I actually really like this, so I don't want to change it too much. But what I do want to have a play with is I want to actually try putting some of the powers into some of these beautiful crackle areas. So you can see there's some pretty wild crackles in this, and so when they get the colour in there, it should be really cool. So I'm thinking I might put black actually in the cracks, and I might put a bit of red as well and see what happens. And then if I do get any on this beautiful surface, then I can always rub a little bit of stone art back in, because this was done with the red Powertex with the stone art rubbed into it. Hey Donna, lovely to see you. Haven't seen you for a while. Hope you're enjoying creating and you've been up to a few things. It's coming up to Christmas, and if you're going to do some of those beautiful Christmas wreaths again like you did last year, they were gorgeous. So what I'm going to start with is I've got a bit of binder in here left over from last week, and so I thought I'd just pop that in some of these cracks so that it doesn't do exactly what I've just done there again. Oh, okay, where's my spray bottle? I don't think it matters because it seems to be drying back to the stone art, so we'll just do what I did earlier, which is throw some spray on some of that. So basically this is just a bit of a binder medium, that with the liquid powders you want to use a binder, so you want it to be wet. So of course you can use your Powertex with a bit of water diluted down, or you can actually use a binder medium with a bit of water. So Donna's just saying, yes, she certainly plans to be making more Christmas wreaths. So I can't wait to see those, Donna. You'll have to share them in the group once you start making those. They were certainly beautiful last year, what you did. All right, so we've got some black liquid power, and we've also got some red liquid power. Because I'm going with the red and black of this canvas, I thought I'd have a play with these. And I've got a syringe here that I thought might be fun to have a go with, to actually put the liquid powers into those cracks. So of course, if you don't have those, you can also use a pipette, which you just squeeze the end and it actually takes it up into it. But I thought this might be fun to try. I had it because I had some medication for my cat, and I went, oh, I'll keep that and I'll use that for art. So keep a hold of those things that you think might come in useful. A couple of little cups here. And of course I could put the liquid powers in there, or I can actually take this out and I can plunge straight into there and fill that up. Look at that, very exciting. A fully loaded syringe with liquid powers. Okay, and then I can play. Might need to get a bit closer in here without knocking over this one that's open. I might just put the lid back on that, because I know, and if I leave that open, chances are it will go everywhere. So let's keep that closed. All right, so I think you can all see that. I might just pop that down there. Look at that. Okay, so it'll be whether I can see. So what I'm going to do is just carefully see what happens when I put some of this into some of those areas in there. So what happens, of course, is that black is going into those cracks, and it should actually feed through some of those little ones. So I don't know if you can see that, but that's essentially what is happening. So it's running into some of those smaller cracks, and it's got this beautiful spider web effect. So we can actually put it into some of those smaller ones in there. Bit of fun. So you too can have a play with that. All right, so of course I could do that with any colours, and so instead of it being white in there now, it's actually got that black spidering its way through those crackly areas. Okay, just because we can try a bit of red too. Haven't seen you for a while, Donna. It's nice that you've popped in today. The red stands out beautifully. Look at that. So that's really standing out really, really well. All right, so got my hat in there, so never mind. Got intrigued with what was happening and leant over a bit far. There we go. So I'll hold that up there. So you can see how that is going right through those spider veins of texture, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. Now, of course, I can then work back into these upper layers and play with that as well. But for now, that was all I wanted to do. I just wanted to show you how when you feed it into one crack, it's actually going to feed through all the little spidery cracks and make those stand out a little bit more. So you can use any colour in the background there, so especially if you're working white on white like this one was, and get that sort of more contrasting effect. And then, of course, when you take the colour on top of this, then it is going to, those cracks will stand out a little bit more. So there we have it, a bit of syringe and pipette play with the liquid powers into those lovely crackle areas. So absolutely stunning to play with. You will have so much fun with this, and of course then you can paint back into it to your heart's content. So like I said at the beginning, don't feel afraid to actually just hop in and try things out that you think of, and you'll be amazed at the results you get when you paint and play. And the Powertex Art Supplies are just so versatile. They're really wonderful to play with. So I'll just get rid of that. And Donna's just saying that she's been super busy with her polymer clay and drawing, but she did actually manage to play with Powertex the other day. So good on you. And it would be wonderful to see that posted in the Creative Hub, of course. And for those of you out there who haven't joined the Powertex Australia Creative Hub, it is a great place to connect and see. You'll be able to check out Donna's beautiful wreaths and what she's been doing. Okay, so next I'm going to just pull up another canvas here that I did the other week. And so this one has white and black on it. And so it's got basically a base of black Powertex, and then it's got the Easy 3D Flex on it, which has crackled really nicely. So you can see it's got some really lovely large cracks in there. So I thought what I'd do is I would just put on some Ivory Powertex, and then we could have a play some liquid powers straight onto there, and maybe even trying a crackle effect with that. So let's have a play and see what we can do with this. I might actually use a smaller cup in actual fact. I'll just use one of these small ones. And I just like to pour it into something else, because otherwise it can come out a bit quicker than I want it to. And of course I'm using the Ivory Powertex, which is the Powertex Universal Medium, and it comes in a range of 11 colours. This is one of them. The Ivory is really useful to have if you're beginning with Powertex. Great for your kit. And really, if you're into mixed media, it's one of those things that you just need to have in your kit. Now, when we're doing this, I'm going to try with using, like I say, the liquid power and a bit of a crackle. So I'm going to do it in the same way as I would with the Bista. So the thicker areas, I would anticipate you'll get a bigger crackle effect, and if it doesn't work too well, it doesn't matter, it just becomes a layer. Okay, so we've got that on there. We'll flow it through a little bit in here as well. And I'm just going to get a little bit onto this area. I don't want it to crackle too much everywhere. And so, of course, where I'm heating it up and actually using the dryer, it's going to force the Ivory Powertex through the top layer of liquid power, and then hopefully that will actually crack. So let's see what happens. I'm just going to dribble a bit through some of this as well. Can. It's good that you've been busy, Donna. That's fantastic. Okay, so now I will use, oh, didn't think this bit through. I will use maybe some magenta. I'll use red. Let's use some red. So the red will go pink. The magenta will also go a pink colour. I used that last week, so I might use something different. We might use a bit of red and yellow. See what happens. And I actually put a little bit of, let's go with tiny bit of violet. Okay, let's see what happens there. So I'm just going to heat this up and we'll see what we end up with. I want to just make it a bit more intense red through there. And let's go. So I'm going to put the hairdryer on. And so this will be a little bit loud, but you'll just have to turn the volume down. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, after that racket, right? So you can see that that has actually cracked in there with the liquid powers. And of course, you've got a lot more intense colours with these colours. Now, you can also, if you want to, you can also spray a combination of the bisters and liquid powers if you would like to do that. So what would be next for me would be I might just actually spray a bit more colour onto some of the white, and I'm not going to put a binder on because I'm going to over I'll sponge back into it with some Powertex. So, of course, that will also work to actually set those areas. So I'm just going to pop some nice intense red colour into there. And then I can work back into that in another layer of play. So remember, there are some areas where this is actually wet in here, and so I can actually overspray some of this where the Powertex was wet, and I don't have to sponge back into those. If I wanted to, I could actually put some Powertex onto all of this area, either in ivory or transparent, and then really mess around with playing with that. So because I can, we'll pop a little bit of magenta into some of this too. And so I've still got some of that crackle that I did before coming through some of it. And if I wanted to, I can then do another layer of a bit more crackle if I decide that that is what I would like. So we can even do that right now. So normally I would just let things dry off a bit, but we'll just go straight into some of this. Don't want to cover up all of what I've just done. Got my best tool in the shed here out. The other thing that is quite nice to do is when you have that bed of ivory, so let's put a bigger stack in here. Don't have a sponge today. Paint should always have a sponge, right? Okay, so it looks looking very organic. So I can leave some of that ivory if I want to, or I can, you know, like I say, actually blend that in. But what I thought I'd just show you is how you can spray onto this, and sometimes you get really, really lovely effects if it is quite wet. So let's just see what we can do with that. I think I've actually taken all my water out of the way as well, so I've got no water to play with. But this is a binder medium, so it's, whilst it's a little bit milky, it's going to dry clear. I love to get movement through just spraying with water and playing with the media. And you will find that the liquid powers go less intense in colour when you actually spray them. I'm just going to pop some spray over some of this because this, like I say, has got a binder in it. And so because I've sprayed some areas where it was dry, it's quite nice to pop that layer of binder over the top. Of course, with the liquid powers, you do need to make sure that you use a binder with it so that it stays on. But the colours and the intensity are just absolutely beautiful. So Donna, you haven't got these. These are just gorgeous. They're quite new to Australia. So they've just come in this shipment of bits and pieces that I've got the last time I bought the Powertex in, which was a couple of months ago. And so there are a range of colours in the liquid powers. So there's actually 8 colours that you can actually use, and you can see they're really intense in colour and just absolutely beautiful. So does anyone have any questions about anything? So if you have, make sure you drop them in the comments. And Donna's just saying, yes, the liquid powers are really vibrant and they are quite beautiful. And so, yeah, they absolutely are. I'm just going to allow that to run through there a little bit. All right, so you can see how I could keep playing around with that. I'll hold that up so that you can see the intensity of some of those areas and how that's actually looking. And of course, then it is just a case of, once that is dry, then actually playing with the next layer of colour on top. And so this area here, I might just spray a little bit more because I can, and I might make that with the red in here and a bit of red in here. All right, so it's looking a bit crazy, but we can always have a play. Now, it would be interesting now to dry that off with the hairdryer again and get encourage a few more cracks in some of that because, oops, my hat, because some of the Ivory Powertex is quite thick now, and I'm sure that we would get some nice cracking through some of those areas. So after we've finished today, I'm going to have a play and do a little bit more on this canvas, because you know what it's like. Once you get started, you can't stop, and it is really good to have several canvases on the go at once. I do that a lot because the temptation is, while it's wet, you just keep going and you will end up with mush. So you're much better to let your layers dry and then paint and sponge back into them with your next layers, or take some contrasting colour into the next layer so that it really pops that first layer of colour that you have done. So of course, with your, you know, it might be quite nice to take some blues and lime greens into some of this, in some of the next layer, and that could really pop the colour. But what I'm thinking is I might stay with those lovely warm colours and maybe just give it a hint of a bit of a focal point on that central area there, where I might just make an element that will just ping the centre bit there. So fun and games, and it then just becomes a case of looking at your canvas and going, okay, what do I want to do with it next? And as you build those layers up, just take more and more care to make sure that you don't lose the beautiful layers that you've created. So as you go, really work on retaining the really beautiful colour. What I'd probably quite like to do next on this one is actually take some sand and Powertex into it, so I get another layer of colour, and then of course take some wax back into the final piece. So the Power Wax is awesome. I will be showing you that next week. I promise I won't do more paint and play again, although it's tempting. I will show you something with the Power Wax where you can actually create an atmospheric layer on some of your artwork, and it does look absolutely beautiful. So I hope you've enjoyed that this week. Let me just check and make sure I've got no questions here. So it looks like no one's had any questions today. So, oh, there is a question. Hang on. So Donna's just saying, I tried a mixed media piece using rice papers. I used the Easy Coat Glossy on the papers before I sprayed my Bista, but they still stain the rice paper. Where did I go wrong, please? Okay, so probably what has happened is that first layer needs to really dry thoroughly. So you just need to make sure, Donna, that when you do decoupage or collage your papers down, that you have sealed it really well on the top as well with the Easy Coat Glossy, and then allow that to thoroughly dry before you work next layer of Bista on. So I can only think that that is possibly what happened, because I do find that they will wipe back really nice and easily when you have actually sealed that paper. So the only way that it would tend to stain the paper would be if it's absorbed into the paper. So whether you maybe didn't do the top layer or maybe it hadn't quite dried, I'm not sure. And but with the matte will not seal it, so it will stain the papers. So I hope that helps. And yeah, I love working with collage and photographs and things as well in my artwork, and pulling things together in a classic mixed media fashion. So if you are painting and playing this weekend, I hope you have a wonderful time. Don't forget to post your creations on the Powertex Australia Creative Hub. So if you haven't joined there, it is awesome. I don't think there's any other questions. Donna's just saying, oh, what I need is patience then. Yeah, that's where it's really good, Donna, to work over quite a few different surfaces. So if, instead of doing one, just maybe have 3 on the go, so that you do collage and then you move across to the different surfaces, so that you're a bit like me by the sounds of it. I'm a real instant gratification girl, so I like to keep going with things. And sometimes I have to slap myself because I didn't stop and I ruined something. So try that. That is a top tip for today, I think. Work across different surfaces, and that way it won't slow you down. You'll be able to keep going in the speedy fashion, and then work back and forth. And it's a really nice way to use up bits and pieces. So if you need any information about Powertex, of course, you can always go to the Powertex website. There's lots of tutorials and product information on there, so you can find out more about Powertex Art Supplies. And if you would like to do something online, there are some new online courses on Ashley Hay Art Academy that are coming up very, very soon. So from me to you, have a wonderful creative weekend. Lovely seeing you here, Donna. And I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Ciao for now. Enjoy creating. Bye.